We were talking earlier about the Hurt Syndicate going to AEW. Now we're going to talk about another former WWE superstar revealing talks with AEW. And I thought this was really interesting because it sounds like it could potentially happen. Matt Riddle was talking to Steven Muehlhausen of Sports Illustrated's The Takedown. He discussed the possibility of joining AEW and his meeting that he had with Tony Khan. Pretty interesting. He says, with AEW, I think AEW is a fantastic product. I know a lot of the people that work there. I like the company. I like the way they work. I like the people that work there. I think with me, it's one of the things I've noticed. I've been relieved after getting fired from WWE. I felt that because I was on TV and I'm such a provocative character at times. Everything was magnified so much because I was on TV. The stress of working on TV 2 to 3 days a week was a lot. I like pressure. I like stress too, but it was a lot. The best answer would be to go to AEW. Get more money and work a decent schedule. I didn't want to work on TV again. I didn't want the attention for a while. I wanted to step away. I just wanted to do indies. Well, this is interesting because he's literally shown up on New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he also has shown up on MLW. So he's pretty much simultaneously shitting on both of those companies. Both of those companies gave him some work after getting fired by WWE. But let's see. He says, I know MLW works with New Japan. New Japan works a lot with AEW. Maybe you'll see me on an AEW channel or broadcast sooner rather than later. Maybe you won't. I talked to Tony Khan. I don't know if he likes me. He seemed happy. I wrestled Zack Sabre Jr. in Chicago. He seemed cool about it. I don't know. When you meet me, I'm very sarcastic, but when I met him, I was like, oh, you like that match? But I just said it in a different way, and he looked at me all confused. And I was like, never mind, dude. I just walked away. So that was my experience with that. Now, just a couple days ago, Matt Riddle was talking about the potential return to WWE. He says, never say never. Now he's talking about AEW. Can I be completely honest with you guys? Can I be super honest with you guys? I don't know how I feel about Matt Riddle going to AEW. First and foremost, AEW has the tendency to have a lot of negative headlines written about them, and it's not their fault. Well, it's not always their fault. But the last thing AEW needs is negative attention, negative press. Okay? Matt Riddle in WWE, every so often there was negative press, negative headlines. It's unfortunate, but that is the truth. At the same time, Matt Riddle is an incredibly talented and gifted performer. Like, he's good in the ring. He understood the character work. He thrived under Randy Orton's tutelage. When they put him together, somehow, some way, as much as I didn't understand it, a lot of people seem to have loved that. But it was those negative headlines that was an issue. And I hate to say this because Matt Riddle, to me, in my opinion, he was one of those guys where I thought he was so talented that it would have actually made a lot of sense for WWE to push him into the world title picture because he was incredibly over. Now Matt Riddle's talking publicly about Tony Khan, and he's not sure if Tony Khan likes him. Why does it sound like everybody that works with Matt Riddle doesn't like him? And we're not just talking pro wrestling either. I mean, look, when he was in the UFC, go find the clips, my friends. Tony Khan and Triple H, we don't really know how they feel about Matt Riddle. Dana White, we do. Dana White had a lot to say about Matt Riddle. So for me personally, the way I kind of look at this is it's unfortunate because Matt Riddle coming into AEW, first of all, it does make a lot of sense. And he is very familiar with the people that were there. He came up with a lot of those guys. He's worked with a lot of those guys in the past before WWE. So I don't know how I feel about Matt Riddle going to AEW because from an on-screen perspective or an in-ring perspective, dude, I think the guy would shine pretty bright there. I'm looking at the chat. Phil says, sorry, but there's a pattern of not many people liking him. Mike also says Riddle is his own worst enemy. And look, I don't know the guy personally. I don't. So I can't really form an opinion on this guy. But TMZ, the headlines, the videos, I mean, there was just so much that was happening with Matt Riddle where like it was understandable as to why WWE decided to not keep him. And so what I would do is argue this. I would argue this. If you're AEW and you bring in Matt Riddle, you keep him on a tight leash. You keep him on a tight leash because the last thing they need with Riddle is more negative headlines. Okay? But if you keep him on a tight leash, and if this guy truly has changed, if this guy truly understands his mistakes, if he's truly learned from it, man, you give him that chance, he could do great things. There's no doubt about that. Go look Seth Rollins. Look at Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. That was some really good content, man. Eric says, so where is he going to be wrestling then? A lot of people don't know that Matt Riddle's currently wrestling in MLW. But we all know MLW doesn't. They just don't got the money, bro. They don't got the resources and the money that Tony Khan or Triple H and Nick Khan have. TKO is a massive, massive, massive company. They got resources up the ass, bro. AEW is growing. They're going to get that new TV deal. That money's going to look good. If Matt Riddle wants money, there's no doubt that WWE and AEW will outbid MLW. But I just found it very fascinating because in that interview, he's also admitting, he is literally admitting that he doesn't even know what Tony Khan thinks about him. Strange, dude. It's a very strange situation. Phil says, would Scott D'Amore take a chance on him? See, the thing about Scott D'Amore's promotion, it doesn't sound like he's signing talent long term. It sounds like he's taking the GCW approach, where guys come in for like per appearance. So him bringing in Matt Riddle could make a lot of sense. There's no long-term commitment. I think the biggest risk right now is whether or not Matt Riddle is worth the risk long-term. And that's tough. Do I think he shows up in AEW at some point? Yes, I do. Whether it's like through signing with AEW or whether it's him showing up through New Japan and like they do something, I could see it happening for sure. But very interesting to hear his thoughts. We'll see what happens.